60 years old, an active life, never really been into a specific sport throughout life, but absolutely loves competition. Hello and welcome to On the Rocks with me, Coach Marshy. Hope everyone is well. So we've got a great guest today. We're going to welcome her in straight away and find out about Carol. Hello, Carol, and welcome to the show. How are you, Carol?
Hello, Neil. Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you.
Good. So we're going to introduce you properly in a second, but just what I said there in that little intro, never really been into a specific sport throughout your life, but a fairly active life. Tell me a little bit about that, just briefly.
Okay, so I have never really competed in any particular sport. I've done a few 10Ks, half marathons, done reasonably well at them. I've always been fairly good at sport, but I've never really considered myself an athlete. I've done all sorts of workout things, like all the different workout fads you could possibly do throughout my life. I've always done exercise, but never actually been an athlete until now.
Okay, and then sort of away from that, who are you, Carol? What's your background? What have you sort of done throughout your life for work, briefly, and kind of what are you sort of into?
Okay, I would say that I've probably lived my life upside down. So I started off, I got married very young, I had children young. So I've got two sons who are now, I've got a 40-year-old son and a 38-year-old son. I then sort of went into a career in agriculture, and whilst I was working, whilst I was doing a full-time job, I did my degree. So that's why I said upside down. Most people do it the other way. And then I did a PhD whilst I was working full-time and bringing up children. So I had quite a long career in agriculture. So I worked for some of the big German companies that you may have heard of. And then 4 years ago, I think it was, I gave all that up. We moved to France. I moved to France with my partner, Rob, and we went there for a year. It didn't work out, unfortunately. We were hoping to stay there. But before we went there, I had qualified as a fitness instructor and just taken it from there, really. So now I coach at Neil Marsh with you. I coach Hyrox and Deca sessions mainly, and the other part of my business is fitness Pilates. So I do quite a lot of local classes in the area near Cambridge.
Yeah, so we get you back from France. We're kind of post-pandemic, or the majority of the pandemic, and it just turns out that the opportunity here arises for you to take on more than perhaps you would have done when you left for France. And just to set the scene for everyone listening or watching, we then sort of fast forward to October 22 onwards. To anyone who's listened to the intro episode for the podcast, there's a bit of backstory in there where the gym itself, Neil Marsh Health and Fitness, we got into this kind of idea of fitness competition in October 22. And then at that point, Carol, we all decide that we're going to go and take on Hyrox in May 2023 at Olympia. Just that real specific section, if you can cast your mind back to the idea of us signing up, what were we like as a group and what were you like as an individual in terms of like what we understood we were doing?
I think it's fair to say we're a bit naive. Didn't really know what we were getting ourselves in for, but I mean, we knew the format of the race. We knew that we'd done quite a bit of functional fitness. and we prepared as best we could for it. But to be fair, it was a little bit of a shock, wasn't it, when we actually got there and found out what it was all about?
Yeah, it was. And in that process, Carol, you and I went down to London, probably, I think it was 8 weeks out from the actual May competition, where we did our Hyrox training academy, with George Edwards as the lecturer that day. And we took a lot from that and then applied it to our guys in the gym straight away for 8 weeks, and to ourselves because we were competing. Did
Yeah,
things change for you once we got to that point?
yes, definitely. I think we were just sort of floundering around before that, weren't we? Sort of making things up a little bit. We didn't really know what we were doing. And then once we'd been to the academy, we kind of knew what we needed to do, but we were quite close to the race by that point.
Yeah. And just recently on a recent group on Facebook that won't be mentioned by name, people were suggesting, they were asking, what do you need to do to become a Hyrox coach? And someone said, do one race and finish on the podium. I think to some extent, there were probably a lot of people in the early part of 2023 that had no idea really about how we program Hyrox. Maybe not the elite level, but what I'm saying is at our level within the fitness industry,
Yeah.
we were really a bit like the blind leading the blind, were we?
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that it's still evolving, isn't it? You know, we're learning stuff all the time about what the best way to train is going to be, and actually taking part is part of that learning. You learn
Yeah.
something every race.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So there's two Carols that we can dig into here. So we're going to talk to you in both ways, Carol. First as an athlete and then as a coach. So let's do the athlete bit first. So let's go and talk about Olympia now in 2023. And let's say we've done the training, we learned what we learned from the academy, we applied it, we turned up in London. Tell us a little bit about the day and how it went for you, sort of your feelings on the start line, and what you thought to the arena when you walked in.
When I walked, well, I'll start with when I walked in. I walked in and I thought, oh my God, this is just me. That's what I thought straight away. Love the music. I love all that music. I love dancing. And if you remember, you kept telling me to stop dancing because I was not conserving my energy. I absolutely loved the buzz of it. It was brilliant. On the start line, I had no idea what to expect. Before I raced, I was thinking to myself, oh, I'll be happy if I complete, or be happy if I complete in 2 hours. And then, yeah, did the race and obviously completed it in less than 2 hours.
Yeah, and on that note, so let's go back to the start line. When
Yeah.
you're standing in that Red Bull tunnel, as we are, and it was a blow up tunnel, so it was quite low ceiling. You looked around and you couldn't see anyone your age, right?
No, I couldn't. There were a couple of women in there that were looked a bit older than the norm, because I was in with a whole load of really young girls. And I remember having a conversation with them in the start tunnel, and they said to me, see these girls here, they're just going to go out like rockets. Don't take any notice of that. You'll pass them later. And I do remember that I actually did pass some of them later.
Yeah, not only did you pass them later, Carol, but like specifically station 3, the sled pull. There's a classic video, actually, it's in the intro reel for anyone who's watching this. It is in the intro reel of that race. And I remember standing there watching you, and I would say it was fair to say you could have been the grandmother of the two girls either side of you. Not just the mother, but the grandmother. And
Biologically, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and I think honestly, from where I stood as a friend of yours, a coach and a colleague, I stood there, and within about 3 or 4 seconds of you arriving, because they were there before you got there, they started watching what you were doing. because your sled was moving a hell of a lot quicker than theirs. Can you rewind? I know it's a while ago now in terms of experience, but how did, in that moment, were you aware that your sled was moving quicker than people a lot younger than you next to you? Were you aware that
No,
you were pretty efficient at it? Did you realize anything was going on?
no, I didn't realise that. I wasn't aware of who was next to me. I had it in my mind that I was going to pace it well, and I wasn't going to blow up on the sleds. I wasn't going to go mad on the sleds. So that's what I did. I just did it, as comfortably as I could and as quickly as I could, and took rests. And I actually walked between the lengths like I'd read that you should. I've read that you shouldn't run because you're just wasting a bit of energy there. So that's what I did. And bear in mind, I'm not a bulky athlete. I haven't got a lot of weight behind me, but I managed to shift it okay.
So first time in Hyrox, station 4, burpee board jumps. You're running around after your rope pull, and you're running the 3 laps as it was at Olympia. What was going through your mind as you reached the burpee board jumps? I know collectively we'd probably given them way too much airtime in terms of like putting them on a pedestal. How did you feel?
I found them hard. Even in that race, I found them hard. At that time, I was jumping. I've changed that now and to stepping forward, but I was jumping them all, and I had to take a lot of rests. I can't remember what my time was, but I think it was something like 7 minutes or something for that. But yeah, it was really hard. I think probably because I didn't have as much endurance as I've got now.
Yeah, and with endurance, I think what we've learned, or what we can say we've learned, we'll talk about more in a minute, but the idea of slowing that lap down before the last lap before you go into the burpee board jumps, or as you've just said there, the stepping up process. Now that you're a stepper, is it a massive difference?
Yeah, it is. I mean, in an actual, when I'm training, I don't step back, I just step up. But in the actual race, I find step back as quick as you can, step up as quick as you can. That's the way I can keep moving now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up just stopping, don't you? You just get so tired that you've got to stop and get your breath, and that's just a waste of time.
Yeah. So you're at the halfway point. You're done the rower. You're through the rower. Then you're on to the next bit. Then the bit that kind of is that final push, those final 3 stations of the race. At that stage, did you know where you were at? Did you feel it was going well? What was happening in your head?
I had no idea. Didn't even start my watch. Didn't look at my watch the entire time. I had no idea how I was doing. I know that I'm better on the second half, but I didn't know that at the time. So I was just glad when the burpees were done. Row was okay. Lunges were fine. Farmers was okay. And then, of course, I got to the wall balls. But I do have quite a lot of memories of the wall balls.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that in a second. So just prior to that, when you're talking about the process up until that point, you didn't check your watch, you weren't thinking about it. The arena itself. So anyone who's been to Olympia and is going to go, hasn't been, but is going to go, this part of the show for me is really important, this question, because that arena is a little bit special, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a bit of a spectacle. It makes it grand, and it was quite hot in there that day, I recall, from where I was standing and competing anyway. But from your perspective, did you feel like you were in a massive arena, or does it not really matter where you are because you're just so zoned in what you're doing?
I didn't feel like I was in a massive arena. In fact, I was zoned in. So I didn't really notice my well, that's just me, isn't it? I don't notice my surroundings.
Carol's referencing when we go for a run, and we run the same loop every Wednesday. And 4 years into this, she still doesn't know which way we're turning. So for those of you that have done Hyrox already and listening to that, you can understand why that might be a problem for Carol when the stations aren't in order. But on a serious note, Carol, we will get onto that in a minute and talk about the importance of focus and things during a race. But in terms of that first event for you, you come into the wall balls. We've all got our story about you, but we want to know your story of coming into the wall balls. What do you remember? What happened to you physically? Where was your head? Did you even know that we were there?
Yeah, I knew you were there. I could hear you all shouting me. I did my. I don't even remember how many wall balls I did at the time, but it was a lot less than I can do now. So I was maybe going 10 and then having to stop. But the thing I remember most was you, and particularly our biggest supporter Vicky behind me, going, "Pick it up, Carol," because I kept putting it down. "Pick it up, Carol, pick it up." And I was, in my mind, I was thinking, can't bloody pick it up. I can't breathe. So I was like, I was getting really cross, wanted to shout at you to tell you to shut up. But I got, I got through them eventually. But all the way through, I could hear you all shouting me, and it was really loud.
And how were you feeling physically at that point?
Wrecked.
Completely wrecked. And
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say, and it's fair to say, we now understand why you were feeling so wrecked, and probably what then happened next as you run up the little ramp onto the stage through the finish line.
Yeah.
Maybe not initially in that moment, but very quickly you start to understand why Vicky and myself were being particularly animated, because we knew something that you didn't at the time. And that was that you were agonizingly close to the current, at the time, world record.
Yes.
So not only were you, but yeah, fine, you didn't get it. You did a 1:29, was that right?
That was my first time. Yeah, 1:29.
So 1:29. But as you come through the line, you're completely gobsmacked, and I just remember it. Tell me about that moment.
I looked up at my time, and I was expecting it to be 2 hours or like 1:50 something. I don't know. I looked up and it said 1:29, and I had looked at the times for the 60 to 64s before I left, and I think the world record had just gone, and at that time, a lot different to what it is now, it was 1:28, I think, something like that. And I looked at it and I thought, bloody hell, I've just missed the world record. How did that happen? And I remember going, how did that happen? How did that happen? And I grabbed, I think it may have been Faisal, but I don't remember at the time. I wouldn't have known him at the time. I grabbed hold of the guy and I pointed to the screen and I said, "Hey, look at that. See that number? See that number there? I think it was 60 at the time. I'm now 61. I was going, I'm 60. Look what I've done."
And a really proud moment for you.
Yeah. I was over the moon. I just couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it.
So considering this was our first event as a gym, we attended en masse, really, and you were the last one out. So you had everyone watching you, I believe.
I was. I think I didn't go until nearly 6 o'clock in the evening.
And I think it's safe to say the emotion around everyone in the Purple Hoodie crew was, it was intense. It was full of joy. It was a moment that, it was your moment, but we were all proud.
Yeah, and it was good enough for me to net 2 Red Bulls, and I don't touch Red Bull normally, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm having one of these.
Yeah, and I think all our listeners need to understand right now that was a massive mistake. that was a big mistake. But so all right then, so you finish, and then very quickly, because during the time that you were out on track, the men's pro started, which meant all the solo runners we knew the solo runners were finished. So we were pretty certain that you had won the event.
Yeah.
So rewind to, well, sort of January, February last year, 23. we don't know what we're doing. We've got no idea.
No.
We know what we're doing with endurance sport because we've got a fair bit of experience in that. We go on the academy, we learn what we learn, we try and apply it, and now you've won your first event. How did that feel?
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Yeah, as I say, I just could not believe it. And bear in mind, when we first started training in, probably seriously training we started in January. I remember saying, I don't know if I can push that sled.
Yeah.
It was in my mind, it was just totally beyond me to be able to push something that heavy.
And there you were in that moment. Victory is yours. We've confirmed that you've won the event. We're waiting for the podium. And we all have this little revelation in our minds because while I've been coaching you for the previous 4 or 5 months leading up to it, I had a bit of a joke saying about you and Hyrox to try and make you go faster.
Yeah.
And what tell everyone what that joke saying was from me every time.
It was every time Hyrox won't win itself. And
And
now, if you follow me on Instagram at all, I put that anytime I do Hyrox training, I put hashtag Hyrox won't win itself. I think it's still got less than 100 uses, but it won't be long before it goes over 100.
And you're right, Hyrox will not win itself, Carol. And we were joking, and now we have to take that really seriously because what happens is you go onto your first race, you win Hyrox. So there we are. You've won Hyrox. Your category, by the way, at the time, that time was the second fastest in history, third, something like that, in that category.
Yeah, it was top 3.
And when we looked at that category, this is a 60 to 64-year-old category that we realise is not just full of people that are giving it a go. This is full of like world-beating athletes, right? Absolutely world beaters. And there you are posting the second, third fastest time in history. And we're sort of sitting there going, oh my word, oh my word. And then the next morning, you're on the phone because you received an email, Carol, and that email was,
welcome to the World Champion. You qualified for World Championships in about 3.5 weeks' time from then.
And that weekend, Carol, was significant for you because you had something booked, right?
I did, yeah. We'd got a festival booked, a weekend festival. So I had to make the decision I made the decision that I was going to go to the World Championships.
And if you rewind that decision to before it, I believe we had a joke. Now, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had a joke about this idea that if you qualify, you've got to go. You can't go to the festival because you never know if you'll qualify again. And yet again, a bit like the joke of Hyrox won't win itself, I'm finding myself talking to you on the Monday thinking, hold on a minute. We've had 2 kind of bits of banter throughout the last few months about this, and they've actually both come true. In that moment, do you feel really proud that you managed to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I was panicking a bit because I thought I was going to have to do pro weights. So I was literally going to have 3 weeks to go from my first open race to using pro weights. But then, luckily for me, I found out that there's a rule for over 60s and they don't have to do pro weights at the World Championships. So open weights it was.
Yeah, and just remind me, I think I kind of remember when I first acknowledged that, but you may have known before me. When did we first acknowledge that?
It wasn't straight away. We didn't know straight away, did we?
No.
It was probably a week in or something.
So there we are. We're all naive in January 23. We've signed up. You've done this event. You've won it. And there it is. It's the end of May. And you found yourself at the World Championships of a sporting event. And as we said in the intro, you never saw yourself as an athlete. I said in the pre-show there, you never really been into a specific sport. And now you're traveling, luckily for us, I guess, as it was our first time, we're traveling up to Manchester for the Hyrox World Championships. At what point did it become a bit of a reality that you were actually doing that?
When I was walking to the bus, because I got the train up, I was walking to the bus and I thought I'll do a live video, and I did a little video about how I was feeling about it. I was obviously nervous, but also excited, and I thought, well, all I can do is my best. I haven't had any time to get any better, so I'm just going to try and repeat what I did at Olympia.
Yeah, and that was, I'd planned and really wanted to take you up and make it easy for you and take the pressure off you, but we wanted you to be at the opening ceremony, and it's actually slipped my mind as to what it was I couldn't get out of. It was a baby scan that no one knew about at the time.
Yeah.
So, but obviously you knew. So, and then I drove straight up and I got there just in time to see this moment, the roll call of each nation being presented at the World Championships, and in you came. And it was just really great to see that for you. And you were just like you're looking now, your shy little self, nice and humble. You're in this big crowd of people, and you're an athlete, and you're standing there. And there's a good story. We won't dive in too much, but there's a good story about you meeting Gemma. Was it Gemma? A lady called Gemma from up in Middlesbrough or somewhere like that, wasn't it? She was up north.
There's a couple of people I met in the crowd and chatted to, and now I know from Instagram now.
Yeah, and they're great stories within themselves. But so you've been presented. The GB team has been presented, and obviously, I guess with us having the biggest participation at the time in the world, we were heavily represented. Tell me about standing there, being part of that.
I felt really proud. It was really emotional. I'm like with anything sets me off crying. I was like crying a little bit. It was a spectacle. It was really great.
Yeah, and it was great for me and Vicky and Joseph, who were up there with you, and then we went live within our WhatsApp group that we created for our Hyrox members, and tried to capture the moment for them to watch it live, which was quite nice for them, because they were just equally as proud of you as we were. So
I wasn't with you at that point, was I? Because the athletes go on a different side to the spectators.
Yeah, and
we had a better view probably than you did.
Yeah, and this is just all new to you, right? And you walk through, and you go through to where they placed you, which was in the grandstand. And I'm happy to be corrected, but I am 100% sure, almost 99.9% sure, that the first time Hyrox ever did anything on the grid was that race. That was the first time they did a grid race.
I believe so. I mean, I had no idea what was going on, really.
I
didn't even know what the grid thing was all about.
So the Elite 15 race, and you're standing there. Any imposter syndrome?
No, I was just taking it all in. I mean, I didn't really know who the athletes were at the time. I'd heard of them, but
I mean, let's be honest. Let's be frank about this, Carol. We knew who Hunter was.
Yeah, we did.
Because if you didn't know who Hunter was and you were in that room, then you probably did know who Hunter was, because he was like the showpiece, the name, whatever you want to call it. Really nice guy, by the way. That should be said as many times on record as possible. Yeah. But we're watching the women's race first, and you're over there, and I could see you over there, and you're with Gemma and the other people you met. And I'm kind of like buzzing around a little bit and trying to, Vicky had to go, and they went off back to the hotel. So, I'm kind of watching, seeing the guys from a local gym near us that are also Hyrox affiliates that we know, and chatting to people, moving around the room a bit. And we're watching this elite race, and, Lauren Weeks, Meg Jacoby, Beck Mason, Linda Meyer, they're all there. All these people that everyone in the Hyrox community now knows as the Elite 15 athletes. And they're all there. And we're watching this race, and we didn't really know, A, what those people were capable of, or B, the level that they were at, and
No.
actually the effort and time that they put into it, and it was their whole life. We perhaps didn't appreciate that. As far as we knew, we were watching the pre-show to your world champs,
Yeah.
and we were watching this Elite 15 race, and we'll talk about how you feel about that now in a minute. But in terms of the world champs itself, we've done that Elite 15 Friday, back to the hotel. Then the next morning, it's race morning. And don't get me wrong, as a coach and a friend of yours, I was there and I did my run and I had my breakfast and I just kind of went about my life as normal in a very relaxed manner, knowing that you needed certain things help and other things you didn't need help with. But how are you going? What's in your head? What are you thinking about?
I was pretty nervous. I was thinking about when do I need to go to the toilet? When do I need to eat? What do I need to eat? Because I have a bit of a routine, to be fair. You know, I have a big bowl of porridge in the morning. I'd taken some porridge up with me, and I couldn't cook it in the hotel. They did let me have some porridge, but I was, little things like that you stress about, don't you? If it's kind of out of what you want. I wasn't going to have like a cooked breakfast. I didn't want a cooked breakfast. I wanted porridge.
Yeah.
That's what I needed. But yeah, I was pretty nervous. Didn't really know what to expect, other than I was going to be racing against my age category in the same wave, which is very different, of course, to the normal race.
Yeah. And obviously I've got my take and my version on this, so it probably helps me when I come to talk to you about it as well, and when we review it. There you are, race morning, you've got those feelings, and we, in true Carol style, an active life, I say in the hook at the beginning, an active life, we've had breakfast and it's time to go to the venue. And we were walking, Carol. We had to walk. And one of our best jokes of all time has just recently happened on our revisit to Manchester and the walk to the venue, but more on that later on. But you wanted to walk to the venue. Talk to me about that process and how it helped you.
I'm always much worse if I don't move. So I don't know how far it was. It was probably 40-minute walk. I was thinking, get your legs moving, just get everything moving, get some fresh air, because it was a lovely day. It was a lovely weather while we were there. So may as well just walk. I think I would have been more stressed if I'd got a taxi or something.
Yeah, for the record, listeners and viewers, Carol's idea of a walk is my idea of a light jog. And I was sweating my arse off and it was hard work. But, I had to be there and I had to help her, obviously. So anyway, we get to the venue and we're in the venue, and I didn't know how to feel for you. And we didn't know enough about Hyrox in the way that the role that the coach needs to play. And you as a coach have played that role now for me twice as a soloist. And now I do the same for you. And we do a certain thing and a certain way of doing that now. But
Yeah.
that race, we didn't know how to do it then, did we? We didn't really know what we needed from each other, or what you needed to do in terms of like the warm-up area and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that nervous moment when you go into that warm-up area and you say bye to us, and me, Vicky and Joseph have to go off and find our ski erg position. What do you think?
Really nervous, looking around me. I knew that one of the competitors that was in my category was warming up with me. I saw her. I'd seen her before. And you can also tell by the wristband in the World Championships, you get an open wristband if you're over 60, whereas everyone else has a pro wristband. So if you look at the wristbands, you know who's in your race. Just kind of made up my own warm up. I'm used to doing warm ups. So probably should have done a little bit of running, but I didn't. I went on the ski erg, had to go on the ski erg, had to go at pushing the sled, but again, the sleds are never the same in the warm-up area as they are in the actual course.
No.
So yeah, it was just, this is the moment now. I've got to pull myself together, calm down, breathe slowly.
Yeah. And to be fair, we didn't go to the ski erg. We stood by the start line because
Yeah,
I forget the number, Carol. Was there 10 of you? Was there 10 of you?
I think there may have been 8.
8 of you.
I think it was 8. And I'd already looked at the stats before I went. I like to look at the stats and see people's times, so I knew who I was competing against.
Yeah, and let's be honest, when Wendy Williams in your age category at the time, not Wendy Williams, that's someone else. Heidi
Hi,
Williams. Yeah, so Heidi is fairly well known in the obstacle racing world of in the States and in the hybrid fitness racing world as well.
yeah.
So she's in your category. So to be honest, to find out information on her was quite simple and easy, not just through Instagram, but actually there were various articles about her and things that she had done in obstacle racing and in the hybrid space.
And she, yeah, I knew that she'd done pro weights as well. And
so
I knew,
she's coming back down to open weights in that moment.
you know, so if you've done pro weights and you come down to open, it's gonna feel easier for you. And she's a strong lady.
And did that intimidate you that you had such a? Because I think she's a high. She had the status then of a high profile athlete within our sport.
Mm-hmm.
Did that intimidate you at all?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
When I met them all at the start line, I met them all, and I felt a little bit intimidated because I was so naive and I'd only done one race, so I didn't have the experience.
Yeah, and you'd met people in like so in the UK. There's an over 60s Hyrox Facebook group, or is it a WhatsApp group?
It's yeah.
So you'd been part of that for a while,
Yeah.
leading up to the event, and obviously a couple of those people were standing with you on the start line,
Yeah.
and that probably helped settle you down, I guess. And it was nice to meet those guys. But what we didn't really, what we knew about the other two ladies that were like the top two going to be up against you.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like their previous race experience, and we knew that they would be fast and we knew what their times were. And you know, you're sitting there with the second fastest time in history at this point. But what we didn't know was the third factor, the unknown quantity of the German that was there with you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a Spanish, an American, and a German, and yourself, and you ended up being the top 4 between you. And what we didn't know was how good they were at running, or whether running was the bit that was good for them, or whether it was the stations that were good for them. We didn't know any of that. And the race starts, and that first lap on that first 1K run, talk to me about how you were feeling.
Well, obviously we all started at the same time. 3 of them went shooting off. I'd said to myself before the start of the race, you need to pace it, don't go out too quick. So I held back, didn't follow them, and of course they came into the ski erg a little bit before me. So I was trying at that point to run my own race.
Yeah. Now
they came out faster than me off the ski erg, possibly. I don't actually remember because I didn't see them.
Yeah, so my memory of that for you, Carol, and for everyone listening, is that you did arrive sometime after in the ski erg, you know, significant enough.
Okay.
That significant difference wasn't as big at the end of it. That's all I remember. I couldn't tell you whether it was 10 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute. I couldn't tell you what it was, but it was definitely less. And I remember that because I remember sort of us talking about it on the side, Vicky and I, and sort of saying, okay, they're obviously good runners. And then the next one came, and then you're on the sleds. And actually, the sled push, did you leave second?
Again, I don't remember. I mean, I think the sled push went okay for me. I didn't feel like I was getting left behind with it.
No, you didn't. And I remember you went past you definitely went past one of the athletes, and I forget who it was, if not two of them. Heidi definitely went out first.
Yeah.
So yeah, you went out of that, and then the run happens again, and you come into the sled pull. And the sled pull was really interesting from my point when it came to your performance. But from your point of view, what was happening in the sled pull? Were you aware of what I've said to you since? And we'll explain what that is in a second for everyone. Where were you?
Right. So in the sled pull, I was next door to Annette Meyer-Ullman, and basically my competitive side, and I do have a competitive side, came out, and I was racing her. I was trying to pull the sled faster than her and trying to get out before her. And probably whilst doing that, my technique went out the window a little bit.
Do you remember what I was shouting at you?
Yeah, I think I was a bit more I was less controlled than I had been the time before.
And do you remember what me and Vicky were shouting, or could you not hear that? Or did you not
Run your own race.
Run your own race? Yeah. Because we were concerned with what you just said. That what you just said was happening. We were concerned that was happening, because it was like you know, you had someone next to you, and that was what you were racing against. You weren't racing your race. Now you've just given her name, and the clue was in the name, because there I am shouting at you, and next to me, go on, mama, like that. And I look, and I'm like, that's Linda Meyer, the elite athlete from the Elite 15 race, who had in the previous World Championships come second in Vegas. I'm like, that is Linda Meyer. And she looked at me and said, is that your mum? She was like, yes. And then we chatted. And to be fair, she was really good about it. We had a good chat all the way around, really. And then we had a good chat on Instagram message after. And, you know, little did we know you were racing against someone that was probably getting input at quite a high level, right?
Yeah.
And actually, when it came to the sled pull, from a kind of coach's point of view, if you weren't watching what you two were doing, the speed that you did it at was ridiculous. It was quick. It was very, very quick. And then people talk about being able to, you know, you don't win the race on the ski erg and the rower, etc. All these big terms, and these big sentences that have come out in Hyrox. But people talk about losing it on the sleds. I'm not going to make this decision for you. You can tell everyone who's listening. Do you think you lost it on the sled?
A combination of factors.
Yeah.
That didn't help. Me racing on the sled did not help.
So then, all right. So we then go round the next K, and you go into burpees. Talk to me about that moment. Talk to me about that moment and the significance that moment has in the growth curve as a person. Now, we listened to Greg talk to Ben Bergeron a little while ago on his Rocks Life podcast. And obviously, I've followed Ben in the CrossFit world for a while. But we talked about your burpee board jump in the World Champs 23 being really significant in this idea of learning and this idea of becoming better. You unpack that for everyone who's listening and watching, because that is really important.
Okay, right. So my burpee board jumps in the World Championships were totally crap. The reason for that is not because I'm bad at burpees. I'm not bad at burpees. I'd just gone into some kind, probably anaerobic zone or something. My heart rate was just sky high. I'd gone on the run, which actually felt okay, but I wasn't okay when I got to the burpees, and I literally could not breathe. So I was doing like 10 or something, and then I was having to stop for absolutely ages to get my breath. And I heard you guys shouting, just keep moving, just keep moving. And I thought, I bloody can't. I can't move. I'm just gonna need to get my breath here.
Did you want to tell us to do one at that point?
Yeah. So that I just felt like I was paralyzed.
Yeah.
Absolutely paralyzed. I just could not move forward. And it took me, I think, 7.5 minutes to do those burpees.
Yeah, which is not what you did at it's not what you did at Olympia, is it?
No,
You
no.
were you were much
And
more efficient.
it was horrible. I was in such discomfort. It was horrible.
And what goes through your mind in that moment?
At that time,
Yeah.
I just want to be able to breathe, and I just need this done. That's what I was thinking. I just want it to be done, but I couldn't move forward.
And how did it affect you emotionally and mentally in terms of sort of where your performance then went?
Well, obviously, I saw Annette, and both Annette and Maria. I think Heidi was way ahead anyway, but Annette and Maria had both gone past me at that point, and I was thinking, shit. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do now, because you're halfway through the race, aren't you? At that point, and then you've got to bring it back from there. But actually, I did kind of bring it back, if you exclude the big mistake I made.
Yeah, and we'll
So
talk
I
about
remember you at that point saying, "Take a gel, Carol. Take a gel. Take 2 gels."
yeah, no, you needed something. And it was something that we weren't giving you from a vocal point of view. We couldn't have given you it from there. It was like a physical need for something to change for you. So that's, I think it was just that was me then panicking as a coach and friend on the side to go, you got to do something here, Carol, because I can see it. And you could feel it.
Yeah. Must have been frustrating for you watching it.
I wouldn't say frustrating. I would say one of the biggest learning curves ever. And on that point, before we go and unpack the rest of this, just explain that moment and what that means now in your whole Hyrox journey.
The burpee moment.
That burpee moment and what it actually means now for you, because it's quite significant, right?
It is, yeah. It just focuses me on run your own race.
Yeah, and yeah, you said to me a few weeks back, I remember you saying about that, and that's what you'd said, and you said, possibly that moment is one of the best things that could have happened.
Yeah.
But in
Not
that moment, you didn't feel it.
Not at the time, it wasn't, but in hindsight, yes, it was a big learning experience for me.
Yeah. So that next run then was also a disaster, because you ended up.
Words, will you?
No, I won't even. We're not going to pull any punches here, Carol. We're brutal. So, you missed a lap. It was a 3-lap course, and you missed a lap, and you knew that. We didn't. We didn't know that because we couldn't see the screen, and B, we didn't really know, but we kind of guessed that you might have missed a lap and you come in early. You'd only done 2 laps. What were the factors that happened in that moment to make you miss that lap, in your opinion?
Several things. I wasn't focusing properly, probably because of the burpees, because the burpee situation. I lost my focus. The second thing was, I think it was either the pro men, I think, came out after us. I think it may have been. Anyway, lots of men with no shirts on, running really fast so that you could feel the wind on you as they went past. And there were lots of them. And I got a bit distracted, and I just lost my focus and concentration.
Yeah. So
I went in the inn 1 lap too early.
yeah,
because I wasn't absolutely sure. I went in and I thought, oh shit, have I gone in too early? And then I looked up at the screen and it said 5-minute penalty.
yeah. And we knew something had happened because we knew the gap had opened up. Obviously, like you just explained, seeing all the other athletes out in the distance on the burpee board jumps, and you're in the farmers and you're in the lunges, and let's excluding the run mistake and missing a lap, and excluding blowing up on the burpees. we on the side were super proud of what then happened. Just try and rewind back to that world champs moment for you,
Mhm.
and try and think about it and remember what happened, because what I think happened and what you think happened, it'll be interesting to see the difference. But those two stations, farmers and lunges, how did they go?
I think they went well, but I had a bit of a light bulb moment when I was running after I'd seen the penalty. I said to myself, it'll be easy now to just give up. They're way ahead of you, especially with a 5-minute penalty. But you can do one of two things: you can give up, or you can try and make up the time. This is the World Championships. You know, you'd be stupid to give it up now. I know I'm better on the second half. I'm really good at farmers, really good at lunges. So I just tried to make it up.
Yeah, and we were super proud of that, because you didn't just make it up, you absolutely sent it. And what you did was inspirational, and it was great. And it showed real character and real resilience from where we were standing. And I think, you know, again, a learning curve, because it just reinstated what you learned at Olympia, that you were better on that second half of the race. And, you know, you now got that in your arsenal a little bit. It's there as a bit of a tool for you to use and to know that that's happening.
Yeah.
You come into the wall balls, and we get through the wall balls, and you finish the race, and you finished officially in the 3rd position, didn't you?
No, only if I hadn't have got the penalty.
Yeah, but you were the 3rd one across the line, is what I'm saying. You were the 3rd one to come across the line, and then Annette came through after you with a time penalty of a minute because of something in the board jumps.
Oh.
And then and then that knocked you down to 4th rather than 3rd. And we kind of watched that live on the scoreboard, which was a real shame. But if sort of 3.5 weeks ago before that, or when we started in the January, someone had said you'd have been the 4th best in the world, you'd have took it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I was a little bit disappointed in my race rather than the time. I was just disappointed in how I'd handled it and the penalty.
Yeah.
But, you know, learned quite a lot from it.
Yeah, no, it was good. And I apologize that I've just made you relive it all. But that's part of learning, and it's part of coaching as well. Don't worry, it's not my style every time. It's just, it's good to unpack it on the podcast and understand it. So World Champs is over. Let's skip over the fact that you went and did a team event at Birmingham, apart from this idea that you had to do 100 wall balls, and that was your station. Just quickly run me through that bit of your team event
for
in Birmingham.
the relay, you mean?
Yeah, for the relay, yeah.
Yeah, so I got the short straw of 100 wall balls in the relay, in our team relay. It was a group of over 60s women called Go Grands, and I did sled pull and wall balls. But it was at Birmingham, and the sled pulls were a bit of a nightmare, and I didn't pull it very fast, and I was a bit disappointed. But then I saw all the hype about the sleds, and everyone had gone a bit slow on there. Wall balls, it was good for me to do 100 wall balls, because I'd got myself really scared about wall balls for some reason beforehand. I was like, I can't do them. Not that I can't do them, but I can't do many at once. And I'd got myself all worked up over it. But it was, to be honest, it was fine. And now, since then, I'm much more confident with wall balls. It's helped. Just
and
doing
it massively, yeah. It's massively helped your solo stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
So fast. So we've done that October. That's this current season that as we record, isn't it? That's classed as. And then if we look at it from a gym point of view just now, Carol, we then head to November XL, the biggest event in Hyrox history so far, 12,000 athletes, and we're involved. And we must have took, was there 40 of us? Like it was
We were there en masse.
in the purple hoodies and
Takeover.
yeah, and we love it, don't we? We all love it. Me and Carol talk about us being obsessed with Hyrox, and it's a good obsession. It's a healthy obsession, and you know, we like that we're obsessed with it, Carol. But we're there in November, and the way they'd structured it is that it was the men's doubles and men's solos on the Saturday. So you take up your role as coach and friend of everyone who's competing, the boys in the doubles, me, Ian, in the solos. Who else did solo? Was there another Alex? You know, and we've reached that point of doing our solo race, my first solo, and you were my real coach and you really helped me in the warm up and everything. It was brilliant. But with that came a way of you having to act. And then within that came emotion. Tell me about that moment in November when you're competing tomorrow on the Sunday.
Yeah.
But tell me about the Saturday for you and what that did and what it did to you as a person.
Saturday was just incredible. You know, watching all the people that we've coached over the last few months and just the way they performed and the results, absolutely amazing. And I was just literally in tears the whole day. Tears of just being proud of everybody.
Yeah,
honestly, I was a wreck. I was a total emotional wreck. So, oh, you've done so well. Like hugs all round, and
yeah,
you know,
I think
it was draining. It was absolutely draining. What with the hype and the adrenaline and all that sort of emotion.
Yeah, and I think you had to leave the venue itself a few times, right? You had to get yourself out of there. And then we go through the evening and you get to the next morning and it is race day again for you.
Yeah.
But ladies solos are at the other end of the day. And in the morning, we must have had, I think it was maybe 4 pairs, wasn't it? At least 4 pairs of ladies.
Is it a female doubles in the morning?
Female doubles. So then you've got all of us men that are buzzing because we've already completed the race. And then you've got all the girls in doubles going around before you even do that. And then you've got the ones that didn't stay over, Purple Hoodie crew, coming to join us. So the group expanded. Everyone was on site. You couldn't keep it together. And then you just about had sorted yourself out. And one of our members, Tatey, decided to come and thank you for all the hard work you'd done and how much you'd helped him. And he was absolutely right in what he said. And it was emotional. And he said he doesn't do public displays of affection very well. But that moment you broke apart and your emotion was so raw and real. And it was amazing. What an amazing moment, by the way, for me as your friend and as like kind of the owner of the gym that you work at and have developed at as a coach. For me to see your reaction and like what it meant, it was brilliant. It was amazing because it meant so much to you as well as it meant to him. It was a real nice mutual moment between the pair of you. I mean, we were all involved, but you know, we all had a bit of a group hug and it was cool. But I'm standing there going, oh my God, she's just sorted herself out and now she's broken again. And she's got a race in a bit. She's actually got to do a race in a minute and she's been working her ass off. So then you're like, I've got to leave. I've got to get out of this room. I've got to get out of here. So you went out, right? And then you come back and
I even tried to do meditation when I went out. So I went out of the Excel thing into those chairs that are outside. And I thought, I've never done meditation ever in my life. So I thought I'd look up an app on meditation. And I was my heart was going like this. I was all sort of wound up with adrenaline. I thought, you just need to calm down. I was looking at this app. No, I can't do it.
No, because this is probably just not you, right?
No.
So then you get on the start line. We've done the warm up. We've gone in the warm up area. You've left. You're excited. You looked excited, and I thought, this energy, this adrenaline dump's it's got to happen somewhere. She's been doing it for 2 days. Like, what's going on? And then you run your race. How did that race go during the race up until the wall ball moment, up until the wall balls? How did you get on?
It was a much more comfortable race than I'd done before. I really enjoyed it. I think I was smiling all the way around, actually. I was smiling on the runs. I heard a lot of support from our guys. There was a lot of shouting on the runs, Every run I went round, I saw someone in purple. So that was helpful. I just felt much more comfortable than I had done before.
Yeah, so let's fast forward and get to the wall balls then. You get in the wall balls, and Dan Fisher, one of the head judges, works at F45 in Cambridge near us, and he's head judging, and he obviously recognises the brand and comes over and he's encouraging you. What's he saying?
He said that you've got everyone behind you, that there's a big wall of purple there. And then he came right up to my face and he said, right, you've got 25 left. What are you going to do? Are you going to do 5s, 10s, or are you going to go for it? And at that point, I'm going for it. So I just did the last 25 and I was done.
Yeah, so from our perspective, I think I was with Zara and Kate, maybe, from our guys. And we didn't clock you in terms of a stopwatch or anything like that. That has since changed. But we didn't do that back then in November 23. But we knew that your wave time was either 4 o'clock or 10 past 4. And we couldn't quite remember. Whatever time it was. And I asked Zara what the actual time was. And what we worked out is that the world record, by the way, in your age kept dropping. The ladies that we talked about in the world champs, they kept dropping those times. Those times were being pushed. Maria's been pushing that time. And realistically, we knew you had 129, 127 in you. That's what we knew as a fact. And we're looking at this watch and we're like trying to get Dan's attention, because we're like, Dan, what world record, Dan, she's going to get a world record. And then he's in your face going, right, what we're going to do. And he acknowledges what we've said. Clearly didn't tell you that, because you've just told us what he did tell you.
No, he didn't tell me that.
And then you run over the line and you hit a 120. A 120 from a 129 without penalty. Like, tell me about that moment. You were the world record holder in that moment.
That I knew I was, because I knew what the world record was at the time, because it was, I think, it had gone down to 121 or something, 122. So I knew I'd done it, and it was probably similar to the feeling in Olympia when I saw the time, and I wasn't expecting it. I really did not expect it. I thought maybe 125. Hadn't looked at my watch again. I don't like looking at my watch when I'm racing now. I just like to go on the feel of it. And yeah, amazing. And I think I grabbed Gus, because there's a great photo of me just pointing with Gus.
Don't worry, it's the thumbnail of the episode. So yeah, I've already decided it'll be the thumbnail of the episode. So don't worry, people will have seen that photo when they found the episode for sure.
Yeah.
That
was such a high.
And what a moment again. Then the emotion of you from the whole weekend, it just was there. It just all came out. Everyone was crying. No one could keep it together. It was an amazing moment. What a moment for you. And you were, and I say were, Carol, because it has been beaten since. You were the world record holder, and you held it for quite a few races.
Yeah.
Worldwide, you held it for quite a few races until very recently when it's been beaten by, I mean, what we're talking about here, 30 seconds, not even that.
Well, it's actually gone again, but it's actually gone more now. So it's probably something like 4 minutes now.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it did. Yeah. So, yeah.
So beaten by the same person twice. And she's knocking time off every time.
So obviously with the November victory again, because there you are getting your flag again, and
Mhm.
number one on the podium, proud moment for all of us and hopefully for you as well. You've got first, so we know because of our knowledge and our love for this sport and our passion for this sport, we know that you we know you're going to get the email tomorrow for
Mhm.
world champs.
Yeah.
This time there was no hesitation. You didn't even need to think about it. You decided you were going, and because we already know it was in Nice, and you're going back to the World Championships of Hyrox. Tell me, if you can, in one sentence, is there anything that comes to mind that means that is different this time that you didn't know last time? What is the main difference, you going into Nice 2024 versus you going into Manchester 2023?
Just experience. That's all it is. Just experience in training, training methods, what I need to do, what I need to work on, how I need to approach the race.
Yeah. And, we're seeing that in your training and we're seeing the results. And I'm going to ask you one question on your training in a second, but obviously since November, we've been to Manchester. And you made it a hat trick, Carol. You've been to 3 open category events and you've won all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Did you think that was possible in December 2022?
No, it never even entered my head that I'd do another one.
Let alone win all 3 of them, right?
Yeah, it never even entered my head that I'd be thinking about doing another one after Olympia.
What do your friends and your family think of this?
I think they always say to me, "You don't realise how fit you are," because sometimes I'll say stuff about, because I teach Pilates and I see how difficult it is for some people to move, even, getting up and down from a mat to the floor, difficult for some people. And they say to me, "Oh, that's because you don't realise how fit you are." But I think really it's more to do with our population in general just doesn't move as much as we used to. We don't move as much, we get in the car, everything's done for us. We used to have to walk places, do things, drive a car using your muscles rather than the power steering, little things like that. But
Yeah.
they my sons think that I'm doing some fitnessy thing. They don't. I think they do. They do actually know what it is, but they say, "Oh,
Yeah.
mum's doing some fitnessy thing."
Yeah. So talking about your sons, I think you've probably caught them out a little bit, and they kind of they go, "Oh yeah, good luck at that fitnessy thing," to a text message to you. But actually, we think you've had a bit of a joke and you've looked into it a bit, and you realise that they do actually take a little bit more interest in that, and they do understand what it is you're doing.
Ollie knows all about Hunter and what his world record is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he does know.
So they've looked at it definitely. And you mentioned your training. That can be another episode at some point. We can talk about training. We could perhaps talk about coaches. We could get a couple of other coaches on the show, and do a bit of a round robin between 4 of us, say. But when it comes to your training, one question:
Yeah.
what is the origin, and why do you have this feeling that you need to do one more rep all the time, Carol?
The origin. I think it possibly came from Meg Jacoby originally. The more recent training I've done, one more. I do use that. I try and do one more. I do try and do more. I just try and do more. I try and push myself on every single session that I do. And I don't know, maybe that's possibly the difference between me and someone else. I don't know. I just try and push the whole time. And actually, throughout my life, I've used exercise to regulate anxiety, I would say. So I can be an anxious person, and the only thing that helps it for me is to exercise, which is probably why I do so much of it, and have always, I've always cycled for miles or run or danced or any kind of movement.
Yeah. And I mean, we could go on and on with this, and we can't because we haven't got all day. But I think what you've just talked about there, and the idea of one more rep, like you said yourself, you've got a PhD, you are a doctor of biology, plant biology, right? So,
Mhm.
but obviously you've now built that knowledge, and you're now a fully qualified fitness professional. And you and I, we love the science. We love it. We want the science to lead us, and we let it lead us. But let's just park that to the side for 1 second. How do you become better at burpee board jumps, Carol?
You do shitload of them.
Yeah, you do
You just
shitloads of burpees.
So after the World Championships, that's all I was doing every Monday session. So I do a Monday session where I come in and I do my own horrible thing. So I set myself the worst thing possible usually. And
Hey,
that
look,
involved burpee broad jumps, lots of them.
you watching the comments of the little clip of this section and on the actual full episode, all the non-qualified scientists are going to come out the woodwork here and have a right go at us for that, and they're going to totally throw what we've just said out of proportion. We love the science. We did just say that, but if you're going to be good at something, you probably need to do quite a lot of it to become good at it, and especially at our level, when you're not actually at threshold level necessarily when you're doing it. So if you're in zone 2 doing it, there will be some benefit training wise. Yeah, there's loads of impact. We get that. But you watch all those keyboard warriors, those qualified keyboard warriors. They're going to come out now and have a right go at us for that. But we'll let them because we believe doing more is where you'll get the results. And that certainly paid off for you, Carol, big time with that particular section.
Yeah.
One quick note, I've got, we can do DECA another time. We can talk about your DECA journey another time, and we can talk about you as a coach more another time. But just a quick word for the over 60s community, if we could. What do you think this has done for a certain group of people within your age group? The hybrid space in general, Hyrox. Tell me a bit about this over 60s community that has evolved worldwide now, but in the UK as well. I've had the privilege of meeting so many inspirational people just because you've given me the opportunity to do that. So tell everyone about it.
There are absolutely loads of fantastic athletes out there that are over 60, and I've found that out from being in the group. Some of them are absolutely fantastic, and a lot of them come from, say, triathlon or running backgrounds or maybe CrossFit backgrounds. But this kind of sport, the hybrid fitness racing, has given them something new to focus on, and it's improving fitness all round. You've seen that from the world record times that from my age group. I mean, 10 minutes faster than it was last year. That is incredible.
And that's not because younger people have come into that category that have got loads of experience. This
No,
is you guys that did it are
yeah.
now going 10 minutes quicker.
I think it's just we've got something now to focus on, and everyone loves it, and it's such a great community as well. You just meet so many people.
Yeah, no, you lot are inspirational. And Yancey on the previous episode from co-creator of DECA summed you up nicely in my eyes, Carol. And anyone who wants to know what that is, they can go and listen to that episode. He refers to Carol by name with a lovely little word for Carol on there. So I think it is inspirational, Carol, what you do. I think it's amazing what you do, and it's amazing what your community of 60-year-olds do. Bit of a confrontational question. Do you think it shows a mirror to certain people that are younger as well?
Probably, because I think they think that you can't be fit if you're old. So some people would say I'm old, 61, but I don't feel old. I think if you work hard at it, you can still be really fit. As you know, some of us are showing. There's lots of us that are showing younger people that. I mean, there's going to be a time where your fitness has to decline through age, but I don't know where that point comes. You know, we're all trying. I don't think anyone knows where that comes, where your fitness starts to decline, because you can train harder and get better, but is that just overcoming your age decline? Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, no, you are some awesome questions, and depending on our listeners, anyone who's got an opinion about that would like to come and talk about it, it'd be great to hear what you have to say, especially if you're experiencing it as well, because that's an amazing point that you make. And where is the limit? And I know you as a person, and I know that you're probably going to test this for as long as you can, but you are all inspirational. You are showing that age is really just a number. And more importantly, Carol, it's not just all about Hyrox. You look what, you know, we're going to go to Nice in a few weeks' time. Like,
Yeah.
would I particularly think to go to Nice? It's a really nice place. I'm sure it is. It's got a reputation, worldwide. But would I be going there if it wasn't for these inspirational 60-year-olds? I'm very much coming as your support and your coach and your friend. And, obviously we'll do a bit of this while we're there as well. But I'm coming to support you, and I'm getting that opportunity as someone to be proud of someone representing our gym and our purple team at the World Champs. And that's because of you guys, the 60-year-olds that are still doing it, still fighting for it, and not letting the old guy and the old girls get in there. They're not, you're not allowing that to happen. And it's just brilliant, and I love it. And you really are an inspiration to so many people, and so many of our members at our gym, and now so many people sort of across the world are looking as well, which is awesome. And keep going, Carol, because we love it.
Thank you.
In terms of getting into Hyrox, Carol, give us one thought, or maybe 2 or 3 thoughts on the advice you would give to someone if they were thinking about getting into this.
First bit of advice is run regularly, get your running base up. That's the first thing I would do, or your aerobic base. So cycling, long cycles, fast walks, runs. Second, find yourself a Hyrox affiliated gym, because there's a lot of people out there that don't really know what they're doing. So find a Hyrox affiliated gym, get yourself into some sessions, do a bit of strength training. For me, I mean, the functional fitness background that I had from our gym was great for Hyrox. Just needed to build on that, because you've been talking about it for years, haven't you?
Yeah.
The benefits of functional fitness and cardio and strength training together.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's spot on.
So I think
key.
A lot of people think that they can do strength training and a bit of work at the gym, but not do any running. They're going to suffer if they don't do running and they do a Hyrox.
Yeah, definitely a runner's sport. So, quick word. I know what I think, Carol, but what do you think the future holds for our sport and our gym, and for us personally as friends as well? What do you think what do you think we've got in store? Is it exciting?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely all blowing up now, isn't it? With the Deca, Hyrox, it's all getting so big and so exciting.
Yeah, no, we are excited, and that's about all we can say right now. But we are very excited about some possibilities that are hopefully going to come all the way through. And we've been lucky enough to have Hunter come to the gym, haven't we? Hunter's come to our gym and did a really valuable talk for us, and we got to meet Tom Hogan as well in the same event. That was awesome when they came to see us. And we've been really lucky so far with the network that we've created, and and the people that we've met. It's been a real pleasure. So yeah. Okay, Carol, what we're going to do is we're going to leave it there. There's more episodes from you in the future for sure. Carol is bound to become a regular guest of ours to talk about various things within the functional fitness space of hybrid fitness racing. Carol, where can people find you if they want to follow it?
So Instagram at Tournesol Fitness with Carol. So that's Tournesol _fitness _ Carol. Facebook, Tournesol Fitness with Carol. So that's spelled TOURNESOL. So it's French for sunflower.
So what we'll do is we'll stick that in the description on all of the platforms, so that it's in the description of the episode, so people can easily go there and click on it as well. So thanks very much, Carol, for coming on. An absolutely awesome insight into, you know, someone who'd never done Hyrox just 18 months ago, and now you are a world beater, top of your sport in your age category, absolutely winning. It's been a real pleasure to have you on. For everyone who has listened, watched, please do subscribe. Please do leave us a comment with anything that you thought was interesting in the episode, or anything you think we should cover in future episodes. If you found it interesting, you think someone else might find it interesting, if you would share it with them, that would be much appreciated. A like, a subscribe, and a comment, and a share on social media means a lot to us when we want to spread the word on this awesome industry that we are now in of hybrid fitness racing. But for now, I just want to say thanks again, Carol. Thanks to everyone who's listened, and hopefully we can meet here again to discuss more on the rocks next time.
Thanks.